Today, I thought I'd do a little detective review of the movie Young Sherlock Holmes. And this time I'll try something slightly different from the earlier similar videos I have done on this channel. I will first do this part, which is recorded before watching the movie, and I will record some additional comments after watching it. So I'll try to avoid any spoilers, but at least this first part shouldn't have any spoilers since, since I have watched the movie, but it's so long ago that I don't really remember any details, so it will be difficult for me to spoil it now, but I thought I'd sort of philosophize a little bit around some concepts of the movie. So, as I said, I have seen this movie. I saw it growing up, and I don't really recall much. I think there were some slightly scary scenes there. So of course, remains to be seen if I'll find them scary today, and that's probably not very likely, but we will see. And I think there were some possibly supernatural elements in it, so that would be interesting. I have the Blu-ray version, or one of the Blu-ray versions, and this Blu-ray has a cover where Sherlock Holmes, that is, holds magnification glass. I don't think this is the best cover for this movie. I think I'm like the one that serves as the background for this video better, where he's sort of swinging on this what did you call it? Not light fixture, but whatever. Ceiling lights. This old style ceiling lights arrangement, and but still, I think there were some action scenes, enjoyable action scenes in this movie. It's presented by Steven Spielberg, and possibly it didn't do extremely well financially. I think it was less famous than some of the other movies that Steven Spielberg was involved in, but such as Goonies, for example. But still, I remember this movie fondly, so it'll be interesting to see it once again. Of course, it's always with a certain sense of trepidation that I watch all the movies that I have fond memories of, because you never know if you might end up being disappointed when you watch it again, but we will see. And so this is sort of a prequel, you could say. So the title is Young Sherlock Holmes, and it, as the name implies, has a younger Sherlock Holmes as the main character. And of course, when you make a Sherlock Holmes movie, you always have sort of the dilemma of what to do with some of the more famous characters. You would usually want to include Dr. Watson, and then there's this Dr. Moriarty. Perhaps you would want to have him in your story also, because sort of these are the two most famous additional characters that make up the Sherlock Holmes universe. To use that as a term to describe sort of the setting in which many of the at least new reimaginations of Sherlock Holmes occur in. But since this is a story set when he's growing up, it would be somewhat odd to include either Watson or Dr. Moriarty. It would sort of be the extremely simplistic way to do it. You sort of just take the adult versions of the characters, create child versions of the characters, and then just place them in an adventure. And that's the sort of overly simplistic way to do it, since it wouldn't follow sort of the what you could say is the official chronology of the original books, since he's not supposed to meet Watson before he becomes a consulting detective, and Moriarty is somebody who sort of shows up even later. So having these two characters in a story set many years before the first story about Sherlock Holmes would sort of break the chronology of the story. So you would have to kind of find replacements, at least for Watson, and I assume that's what they are doing in this movie. I think perhaps there was some kind of friend or companion he had that sort of acts as the sort of younger replacement for Dr. Watson. Because if you are going to have Sherlock Holmes story, you would presumably want to sort of at least follow the somewhat general style of the original stories, in which you have a companion for Sherlock Holmes who's an assistant in his adventures. You could, of course, always have him running around by himself, but you'd sort of miss or lose some of what make the original stories interesting, or some of the characteristic of the original stories. So I assume they have a replacement for Dr. Watson, and as for Moriarty, well, that's perhaps a little bit more difficult. I'm going to guess that this story has more of a generic villain that acts as an antagonist, rather than it being Moriarty himself. Of course, from looking at the DVD and what I remember from the movie, it was set in a school environment, at least part of it. So you could, of course, if you really wanted, place a Moriarty character as one of the teachers or professors at this school, but we'll have to see what they do, I guess. It would, I guess it's, to a certain sense, it's a question of being able to what's the word? not indulge in including Moriarty. So, to a certain extent, he is one of the more famous characters from the books that I I guess most people that have heard of Sherlock Holmes, they likely know Sherlock Holmes. They know that he has a companion, and they likely know that he is called Dr. Watson. And again, smaller subset might know of Moriarty as his sort of arch enemy, and that's more or less the extent of what is most known, I think, about the characters from these original books or stories about Sherlock Holmes. So this is sort of, you have a certain expectation perhaps from the audience, and then you have the temptation to include Moriarty in the story to sort of satisfy this expectation. So I guess you have, as I said, a certain dilemma with regards to whether you should include him or not. I guess perhaps the best compromise would sort of be to have somebody who you sort of hint at being Moriarty without actually stating this explicitly, and then you sort of acknowledge what many of the people who go to see the movie, who are fans of Sherlock Holmes, might expect. At the same time, you don't make him character that's sort of his main enemy without, and then break the sort of chronology of the original books. So I think perhaps that's the best compromise, but I don't know if that's what they did here. I will have to see the movie to find out. And yes, this supernatural elements, if that is what they were, I'm sort of interested to see. I'm curious to see how they play out in this movie, if they actually are supernatural elements, or whether it's just sort of seemingly supernatural elements that are explained away using science or other more basic facts. So that will be interesting, yes. Apart from that, I'm curious as to how London will be depicted, if that's where it's set. You have the expectation that London in this age is sort of dark, filled with smog, and some aspects of the atmosphere that I'm curious if they try to recreate this or not. So that would be interesting. When I saw the 2009 Sherlock Holmes movie, I thought perhaps that was one part where it was lacking. It's many of the scenes looked a little bit too much like they were simply recorded in present day London with the cameras facing away from all the cars. So you still have lots of old and very majestic buildings in London, so it's not difficult to record scenes that look like they could have been recorded 150 years ago, but this sort of dark, smoggy atmosphere was not really well recreated by the 2009 movie, I thought. So that was perhaps my largest disappointment of that one. We'll see if they do this better in this one. I'm not sure if it's actually set in London or if it's outside London in a more landly environment. So that's just something I'd like to find out. And the only way to find out is by watching the movie. So that's what I'll do, and I'll continue this video afterwards, and see if I have some additional comments. So, end of this first part. And that was it. I have now finished watching the movie, and I would say my very short reaction is that it was very enjoyable. I had very much fun watching it, and that wasn't really guaranteed. It's primarily a kids movie, so you never know with those kinds of movies if they are enjoyable when watched by adults. But this one definitely was, at least for me. I didn't really remember much of the movie before I watched it again, but there were some scenes during the movie that I could sort of recall when I saw it now, and yes, it's a very fun adventure movie. Of course, Steven Spielberg is very good at making movies that are enjoyable for people of many different ages. So it perhaps wasn't so surprising when he was involved that it would be enjoyable also when rewatched as an adult. So yes, perhaps a little bit relieved. You never know. It's always disappointing when you see something you enjoyed as a child, and upon rewatching it, find that okay, it wasn't really that good at all. So sort of erase or redefine your good memories of something with the sort of harsh reality of it not having been enjoyable. But sometimes, like in this case, I still find that this was an enjoyable movie. And it, I would say, it largely holds up as a movie. Also in sort of this age of very realistic effects and imagery. Of course, this is an 80s movie, and the computer graphics, special effects are, as one would expect, not as good as you would have today, but the effects were, I think, quite good for their time, and even though it's very easy to see that there are special effects, they are very memorable. So very well chosen, well made. I I think that overall I can recommend this movie to anyone that wants to watch a movie starring Sherlock Holmes in well, you see, his youth, and if you're not allergic to older movies, well, then this should be an enjoyable watch, I think. Of course, it has some moments that perhaps are a little bit silly, being a kids movie, but still, I found it very much enjoyable. So, we perhaps try to do a little detective review of this movie. It consists of 3 points. What I call a detective review. 3 main points at least. There's whether the movie stars action hero Sherlock Holmes or not, and whether there is a payoff for paying attention during the movie, such as if there's a possibility of guessing who the villain is by paying attention. And finally, there's actually some detecting going on as part of the story. And if you start with the first point, yes, this is a sort of action hero Sherlock Holmes, and that's perhaps as expected. He's young and fit, and there's quite a lot of swashbuckling in this movie, and there's also some jumping around and running and various other action-related moments. So this is definitely on the side of action hero Sherlock Holmes. And as to point number 2, yes, I would say that this, to a certain extent, is a movie where it's possible to pay attention, and based on that, being able to guess who the villain is, perhaps not extremely difficult, since the movie does, at least at and reach the midpoint of the movie, sort of provide some what do you call it? Hints as to who this might be, but still, I would think that there are some minor details that a very observant viewer might be able to catch on to. And we also have some detecting in this movie. We even have Sherlock Holmes running around with a magnification glass. So I would say that from a detective review point of view, this movie does very well. And then there's perhaps related comment. At least in these new incarnations of the Sherlock Holmes characters, such as the 2009 movie and especially the BBC Sherlock TV series, you have, and also the games, of course, you have quite extensive use of Sherlock Holmes' sort of observation powers and his mind palace, which has been sort of developed over the TV series. There's not that much of that here. You have a scene where he uses his sort of deductive abilities to infer things about a person. So there's some of that also here, but it's more sort of let's say, on the deductive level. So he makes observations about clues and then tries to infer things from that more than having the sort of now somewhat stereotypical scene where he takes a short look at someone and then sort of goes on and to describe their whole life. So you have a little bit of that here also, but not so much as you have in more recent versions of Sherlock Holmes. So that was interesting. And overall, I did some sort of I had some thoughts at the beginning of this video as to how they would handle the story in this movie relative to the existing stories about Sherlock Holmes, because we have a chronology and at least the official or the original stories, and introducing Watson, for example, at a much earlier point would contradict those stories unless you had some sort of ad hoc explanation for why it didn't. But this movie, it's from the beginning makes it clear that this is not supposed to be a story that's set in let's call it official Sherlock Holmes timeline. It's more a reimagining of what might have happened if Sherlock Holmes had run into some of the characters from the stories at a much earlier point. And that's what happens in the movie. You have quite liberal use of characters and quotes from, and also items from the sort of established canon of Sherlock Holmes, and they are introduced in this movie in various ways. So at the end, you have a Sherlock Holmes that's quite close to how he likely would be when the first book written about Sherlock Holmes was originally written. So at least such as it has been interpreted in the movies and TV series over the years. So you have this sort of visual image of how Sherlock Holmes looks, and much of that is sort of put in place in this movie. So they did, let's say, choose the simple way to adapt this material, but I guess that's okay. You have sort of successfully introduced the character to a potentially new audience who's not that familiar with him at the end of the movie, and you have established most of the sort of well-known elements of the characters and some his popular way of talking and various other parts of his character. So that's an okay way to do it, I guess. And that means that they probably could have made more movies about Sherlock Holmes than they ended up being. His character would be well suited for having sort of series of movies, since sort of basic premise is that he solves crime. So if you have a new crime, you have a new basis for a new movie. So it would be well suited for having multiple sequels, but of course we never got that. So So this is the only movie in this sort of young Sherlock Holmes universe, to say it like that. Of course, the financial success or perhaps lack of it for this movie might have played into that. I took a look at the box office numbers, and it wasn't really that stellar. Much lower than, for example, Goonies, which came out at almost the same time. Was so. I guess it's understandable that there wasn't financed more movies of this series. It's too bad though. It would have been interesting to see how the characters and the world could have developed. But oh well, we never got that. And there's some other sort of interesting aspects also to this movie. I thought it visually looked quite good, especially the first part of the movie. You have some nice scenes set in London, and I think those looked very nice. So I thought perhaps the first part of the movie looked better than the 2009 movie. Of course, that's partly due to it's not really a matter of CGI effects, but more sort of choice of lighting and sort of the environments that you record. So overall, it looks very nice. Towards the end, there were some overview shots that were not equally impressive today, but overall, I thought they handled the visual aspects of the movie quite well. And then you have, of course, the fact that it's set much of the movie is set in a British boarding school. And, well, I at least thought there were quite a few similarities to the visuals in the Harry Potter movies. This could, of course, be not necessarily a coincidence, but more because both this movie and the Harry Potter movie, they sort of borrow much of the visuals from traditional British boarding schools. So this imagery might be strong enough as a basis for. So you end up with something that has visual similarities also in this movie and in the Harry Potter movies. It does not necessarily mean that the Harry Potter movies took inspiration from this movie, but it could of course be that there was some inspiration there. It's certainly a very sort of unique visual aspect that makes it looks nice on the screen. So I thought that part of the movie was also is also very enjoyable. It looks nice and very atmospheric environments that it has been recorded in. And then you have let's say, the supernatural elements of the movie, or lack thereof. You have some very fantastic imagery in the movie several times, but the movie makes it clear from the very beginning that there is nothing supernatural going on. So there's really no sort of tension as to whether the events are supernatural in nature or not, because the movie makes it very clear that this is not supernatural. So that ended up with being something I didn't quite remember correctly. But of course, some of the imagery might suggest that there is an element of the supernatural here, but that turned out to not be the case. So yes, but still, it's yes, a very enjoyable movie, I think, and I think that's perhaps most of what I wanted to say. So it could seem like the creators wanted to have a series of movies, or at least another movie, since there is a sort of post-credit scene where they at least set what might be a basis for another movie, but as I noted, that was not the case. So we ended up with just a single movie, but still, it was an enjoyable movie. So we'll have to be thankful for what we got. So yes, and that was everything, I think. So as noted, if sort of light action adventure movie with Sherlock Holmes sounds interesting when he's still in school. Well, this is perhaps the best alternative you have, and it's a very enjoyable alternative. At least that's what I thought. So I can recommend it if you think it sounds interesting. So that's all I wanted to say. So goodbye.